You don't really know a man until you see how he thinks when no one's watching. Because what you see in public is controlled, measured, designed to be understood a certain way. But behind that image, when there's no audience, no pressure to perform, that's where the real thinking happens. Power isn't built in public, it's shaped in private. And the truth is, powerful men don't think the way most people do when they're alone. They're not just reflecting, they're analyzing, calculating, questioning everything. While others relax into comfort, they sharpen their perspective. And that difference, what happens in silence, behind closed doors, is what separates influence from illusion. In this video, you're going to understand how powerful men actually think, especially in the moments no one else gets to see. This isn't about what they say in public or how they present themselves. It's about the patterns running in the background, the way they analyze people, question situations, and make decisions without needing validation. You'll start to see the shift from surface-level thinking that reacts to everything to strategic thinking that observes first and acts later. You'll understand what they never say out loud, how they read intentions instead of words, and why they learn to detach emotionally, even when it feels unnatural. Because once you understand how this thinking works, you stop looking at power as something external and start realizing it begins with how you think when no one is there to see it. What you see is rarely what's real. Powerful men understand that perception is part of the game, so they separate who they are from what they show. In public, they're composed, confident, sometimes even predictable. But privately, their thinking is far more calculated, far more deliberate. Because power isn't just about what you do, it's about what people think you're doing. Leaders, CEOs, influencers, they all operate with this split. What they present is controlled, it's simplified, polished, easy to understand. But behind that image, they're constantly analyzing situations, questioning motives, and adjusting their approach based on what others don't see. What they show you is never the full picture. And that's not deception, it's strategy. If people fully understand how you think, they can predict you. And if they can predict you, they can limit you. So the real advantage isn't just in action, it's in what stays hidden. Machiavelli didn't write about power the way people wanted to hear it. He wrote about it the way it actually works. Instead of focusing on ideals, he focused on outcomes. And one of his most important insights was this: control perception, not just actions. Because people don't respond to who you truly are. They respond to what they believe you are. That's where most people lose without realizing it. They focus only on being honest, open, and consistent, assuming that truth alone will earn respect. But Machiavelli saw the flaw in that thinking. In real-world dynamics, perception often matters more than reality. It's not about being good, it's about appearing good. That doesn't mean becoming fake. It means understanding that raw honesty, without strategy, can make you predictable and easy to manage. While others are shaping how they're seen, you're exposing everything. And in a game where perception shapes outcomes, strategy will always outperform unfiltered honesty. When no one is watching, powerful men don't just think, they analyze. They don't take things at face value, and they rarely accept situations as they appear. Instead, they question everything. Not out of paranoia, but out of awareness. They look beneath words, beneath actions, trying to understand what's really driving people. They assume there are always hidden motives, not necessarily bad ones, but unspoken ones, because they know people don't always reveal their true intentions directly. So instead of reacting to what's said, they focus on patterns, behavior, and timing. Most importantly, they think in outcomes, not emotions. While others ask, "Is this fair?" or "How do I feel about this?" they're asking a different question entirely. where does this lead? They don't ask, is this right? They ask, what does this lead to? That shift alone changes everything. It removes impulsive decisions and replaces them with calculated ones. It turns reactions into strategies. If you're starting to see how different this thinking is from what most people are taught, subscribe, because this is the part no one explains. Powerful men aren't emotionless, but they don't let emotions take control. They feel everything: pressure, frustration, ambition, even doubt. The difference is, they don't act in the moment of feeling. They step back from it. They observe it. And then they decide what actually serves them. Because emotions are fast, but clarity requires distance. Most people react immediately. Something triggers them, and they respond without thinking. They speak too soon, decide too quickly, trust too easily, or push back too aggressively. And in doing that, they give away control. Not because they're weak, but because they're being driven, not deciding. Detachment changes that. When you create space between what you feel and what you do, you start seeing things more clearly. You notice patterns you would have missed. You understand people without getting pulled into their behavior. You stop making decisions just to relieve discomfort and start making them based on outcome. They feel, but they don't let feelings decide. And that's what makes their thinking different. Not colder, but sharper. Not disconnected, but controlled. Because when your emotions stop leading, your judgment finally starts working. Powerful men don't reveal everything they think, not because they're hiding, but because they understand the value of holding information. Every thought doesn't need to be spoken, and every intention doesn't need to be exposed. Silence becomes both protection and leverage. When you say less, people have less to analyze, less to use, and more to wonder about. And in that space, they often reveal more than you ever could. They fill the gaps, they explain themselves, they expose their position, while you stay composed and observant. What they don't say is often more important than what they do. Because silence isn't empty. It's controlled, and when used correctly, it gives you an advantage most people don't even realize exists. At the end of the day, power isn't built in the moments people can see. It's not created in conversations, appearances, or performances. Those are just the outcomes. The real foundation is built in private, through how you think when there's no pressure to impress, no need to explain, and no audience to react to you. Because that's where your real patterns exist. When you're alone, there's no reason to pretend. No reason to filter yourself for approval. And that's exactly why it matters. If your thinking in those moments is reactive, emotional, and scattered, that's what eventually shows up in your actions. But if your thinking becomes controlled, observant, and intentional, everything outside starts to change with it. Powerful men understand this. They don't wait for situations to force growth. They refine how they think in silence. They question their own reactions. They replay interactions. They study people, patterns, and outcomes. Not occasionally, but consistently. And over time, that creates something most people never develop: internal clarity. They don't need constant reassurance. They don't rush decisions. They don't depend on external noise to guide them, because they've already built a system of thinking that works, even when no one is watching. That's why their actions seem calm under pressure. That's why they don't overreact. That's why they can stay composed while others lose control. It's not natural, it's trained, quietly, repeatedly, in moments no one else pays attention to. And this is where the real shift happens for you. You stop focusing only on what people see and start paying attention to how you think when you're by yourself. You notice your default reactions. You catch your assumptions. You become aware of where you're emotional, where you're impulsive, where you're unclear, and instead of ignoring it, you refine it. Because once your private thinking becomes sharper, your public behavior follows naturally. You don't need to force confidence, it shows up. You don't need to act controlled, you become controlled. You don't need to prove anything, your presence starts doing it for you. That's the difference most people miss. They try to change how they act without ever changing how they think, and that's why it never lasts. But when the thinking changes first, everything else aligns. You don't become powerful by acting different. You become powerful by thinking different when no one sees you. And if you've ever noticed how differently you think when you're alone, you're starting to understand this.